A man found gold in a desert, but didn't want to tell his distant companions. Selfishly, he wanted it for himself, but couldn't move it alone without their car. After thinking, he called his companion over. "Hey, come see this." "What?" "Come look." They tested the gold with a lighter. It didn't blacken, proving it was real. They tried digging it out, but it was too heavy for them to move. They tried using a car to pull it, but the rope snapped. They tried again, but with the same result. Though they found gold, moving it became a big problem. Luckily, no one would find it in this deserted area, but at night, wild dogs make it dangerous. They lit a fire before dark for protection, unable to move the gold alone. They discussed sending one person back for an excavator. Both wanted to guard the gold, hoping the other would go for the excavator. The bearded man said Zach's survival skills were poor and he was injured. Zach argued he found the gold and didn't know where to get an excavator. Both were tempted and wary of each other. Finally, the bearded man went for the excavator. Zach stayed to guard. The bearded man left all food and water with Zach. Thinking of the bearded man's return, they'd soon be rich with gold. Zach secretly rejoiced, unaware that a man stranded in the desert found a plane wreck, but dismantled it instead of using it as shelter. He dragged the wreckage under a dead tree, making a simple shelter to constantly watch his gold. Greed and selfishness clouded his judgment, making him lose sight of such a basic shelter offered little protection. He woke to sunburned skin from the blazing sun, risking death if he stayed. Eyeing the gold, he considered leaving. He took a large piece, ready to depart. But then, the bearded man called. With just a few words, Zach couldn't resist the temptation and stayed. Days later, food gone, water low, and the bearded man late. How could he survive? He saw a woman approach, but she hid in the wreck. He feared she'd find his secret. The woman had seen him and asked why he was hiding. She offered food and water, but Zach refused everything. Though needy, he was wary of her sudden appearance and stayed guarded. Seeing his secrecy, she quickly guessed he was hiding something valuable. The woman rushed towards his shelter. Zach couldn't stop her in time. Just as she was about to discover the gold, Zach knocked her down. Greed had driven him mad. To protect his gold, he'd do anything. Fearing wild dogs, Zach burned the woman's body. Now out of supplies, the bearded man still absent, unaware he was being played. The man was trapped in the desert. Seeing the approaching car, he didn't call for help. He was running on fumes, yet still refused to give up the gold. Perhaps believing the bearded man would return, his own greed would soon claim his life. The desert weather shifted in an instant, from clear skies to a raging sandstorm heading straight for him. Zach took shelter in his makeshift refuge, but it was no match for the powerful storm and was quickly uprooted. Buried in sand after the storm, Zach emerged with a branch impaled in his body, the searing pain making him cry out. Rather than his injuries, he worried the gold would be buried, only relaxing once he confirmed it was safe before passing out. He later awoke to the dead woman before him, vanishing in a blink, unsure if it was real or a hallucination. The communicator rang again. The bearded man, claiming to be close, told Zach to guard the gold at all costs. As Zach hid the gold, the woman reappeared, asking about her sister, the one Zach had struck down. Zach tensed up but feigned calm, yelling at her to leave. She gave a knowing look and left without a word. Circling vultures seemed reluctant to leave, as if they'd caught the scent of impending death. The bearded man called again, saying he saw smoke and was heading over, but wild dogs had him surrounded. Weak and badly wounded, Zach was no match for the frenzied pack, slowly closing in every time his focus wavered. He pleaded for the bearded man's help, but got no response. He'd been betrayed, and the dogs soon overpowered him. With his dying breath, Zach's eyes remained fixed on the gold. The bearded man, seeing Zack's demise, eagerly went to claim it. But as he began digging, an arrow pierced his chest. In the end, he too succumbed, the gold forever out of reach.